Breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report. Presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Vikings season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2024 GMC Acadia and Sierra on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is Sam Bird. Does a great job putting our show together, and it's Packer Week. It's Thursday of Packer Week. We're getting close to Sunday in Lambeau Field. Undefeated Vikings go into Lambeau to take on the 2-1 Packers. First place is on the line because if Green Bay wins, then they'll have a head-to-head in hand. So technically they'll be in first place over the Vikings. If the Vikings win, it's a 2-game lead through 4 games. Sam, it kind of reminds me of back in my last year with the Vikings, 1998, before I went down to Tennessee, and we went into Green Bay on a Monday night. Randy Moss's rookie season, Randall Cunningham had taken over for Brad Johnson. At that point, it was week 5 at that time, not week 4, but we were undefeated.
Sure.
And still questions about how good we were because we had been a close to 500 team the year before, had made the playoffs, won a playoff game in New York. But it was a big statement game to win in Lambeau. The Packers had an 18-game home winning streak at the time. Brett Favre, that whole crew, Mike Holmgren, the coach. And it was a momentous night where Randy Moss went off with 190 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. Chris Carter had 8 catches for 119. Randall Cunningham threw for 442 and 4 touchdowns. Now, I don't know that Sam Darnold's going to do that this week.
Never say never, Jeff.
But you never know, and particularly because I think the Vikings want to run the ball to kind of keep a pretty good Green Bay pass rush off of him. They have 11 sacks, not in the Vikings class with 16 sacks. But there are just so many subplots to this game. It just kind of reminds me of that 98 game. And I think it's going to be a really exciting Sunday in Green Bay.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. I haven't been this excited in a long time for a Vikings game, and it's only week 4. That's the most exciting part. I did have a question I wanted to ask you. I've been kind of brewing on this question for the last few days, and you kind of alluded to it. But from your perspective, does this game, being that it's a division game, first place on the line, back in your day, I mean, were you buying into the hype kind of like the fans are, the players are, or did you have to be the one to say, it's the next game on the schedule, 1 week at a time? Where did you kind of fall on that?
Well, I always felt divisional games took on extra importance, certainly. It's almost a 2-1 game because you can move forward and put your opponent one back. And so, yeah, I think there was a different vibe in our facility, in our building, in the locker room, in the lunchroom.
Oh, yeah.
When we had those games, when we went on the road for divisional games, whether it was Green Bay, Detroit, or Chicago. But Green Bay was always kind of special with the border battle and those type of things. So it certainly was exciting, and it felt different those weeks when you took on your divisional rivals, and especially so the Packers twice a year. And so I think it does shape up as a really exciting Week 4 matchup, one of the glamour matchups of the league in this particular weekend going forward with the Vikings at 3-0 and the Packers at 2-1. It's going to be a fun weekend for sure.
Absolutely.
We always like to start our Thursday shows when the Vikings have won a game with Kevin O'Connell in the locker room after the win over the Houston Texans that moved them to 3-0. Here's the coach.
I don't know if I've been more proud of a football team from a standpoint of what we talked about last night. You guys coming to life. All right? We won the turnover battle. We ran for more yards than they did. All right? We kept the chunks off the tape. You guys forcing turnovers defensively. You know what this is starting to feel like? A team that believes every time we take the field, we're going to win a football game. And when adversity hits, we're going to figure it out together. All right? Feels real to me, fellas. It feels real. You guys know I wouldn't lie to you. I started out training camp saying I would never, ever lie to you guys. And I can tell you right now, we are capable of absolutely anything that is out in front of us right now. We are capable of stacking it all together, leaning in with one another, and special is going to happen to this football team.
The coach is very optimistic, which is great. And then at his Wednesday press conference, here's Kevin O'Connell talking about the Packer game.
I'm excited for this week. First game in the NFC North. Football team's got to, stick with what has really worked early on in this football season, which is preparation, making sure we're dialed in, and we'll be ready to go compete against a really, really good team. Matt's doing a great job. Jeff Hafley, Basach, all those guys are some of the best coaches in our league. So we've got to make sure we prepare our team to go compete like crazy. Want to highlight Jonathan Grenard, NFC Player of the Week defensively, first of his career. Really cool to see him making such an impact here early on.
When we talk about keys to this game for the Vikings, I think one of the major keys is going to be the running game and to continue to outrush the opposition, which the Vikings have done in the first 3 games, all victories. So it seems like there's a formula there, and O'Connell, as the play caller, trying to get that balance in the offense, which he has achieved these first 3 weeks, which has been great with a new quarterback in Sam Darnold, and Darnold has capitalized on play action because they've been able to run the ball effectively. And so I think that's really going to be obviously a key this week. The Packers' run defense is a little inconsistent. They ranked 10th in the league. They held the Titans last week to 33 yards on the ground, but Saquon Barkley had 109 and 2 touchdowns in the opening win for the Eagles over the Packers in Brazil. Then in week 2, Jonathan Taylor had 103 yards on the ground, and the Colts had 140. The Packers barely won that game by 6 at Lambeau. I think that it's very obvious that a key in this game is going to be the running game. And on the other side of the ball, probably the most pivotal matchup of the game, because the Packers lead the NFL in rushing, 204 yards per game. And a lot of that's because Jordan Love has been injured. We know that. And whether he comes back this week or not, we will see. Matt LaFleur, the coach, definitely playing it coy on whether he's going to return Jordan Love this week. I think it's a very iffy deal, even though Love is practicing on a limited basis. And we talked about this the other night. I'm just not sure you want to bring back your $50 million a year franchise quarterback against the team that's leading the NFL in sacks with 16 sacks and have him take those hits unless he's 100%. And even he in his media session said he's probably not going to be 100%. So
absolutely.
But it sounds like he wants to play. But just getting back, the Vikings also number 2 against the run. So that kind of goes strength on strength. Going to be really interesting. I think whoever runs the ball best in this game is almost certainly going to win this game or have an excellent chance to do so. For the Vikings, that means Aaron Jones and the ex-Packer who we know wants to have a big game in this return for him to Lambeau Field. Let's hear him at his press conference this week talking about going back to Lambeau.
Kind of be in the zone, just flowing. I've been there. I know. I'm familiar with the place. I've played so many games there. Different locker room. I have been in that locker room though, so it won't be too new. But I'm just excited to go back and have that full circle moment.
Aaron, have you thought about what it might feel like to score a touchdown at Lambeau in a different uniform?
Of course. Of course. If you're not thinking about the end zone, you're thinking about the wrong thing. No, definitely. And I'm definitely leaping. Definitely leaping up there. It depends on which end zone I'm scoring, but either end zone is not too tall. So it is kind of high up there, but I can still get up there. So either one. Hopefully there's a Vikings fan in one of them, so I can jump up to them. I think that'll be a pretty cool shot, pretty cool side by side with the 2 jerseys and doing the Lambeau League.
Aaron also was kind of playing it a little coy himself when he's excited to go back to Lambeau, but he was asked, how do you feel about the Packer organization? Oh, I appreciate my time there. I'm grateful for the opportunity they gave me. I think he'd like to stick it to the Packers, who
No
tried
doubt.
to get him to take a pay cut again for the second straight year. He refused. That's how he basically ended up here in Minnesota and going to Lambeau. Even after the way the season ended, he had 5 straight 100-yard rushing games for the Packers. Everybody talks about Jordan Love down the stretch. Yeah, he was great when they won 7 of 9, crushed the Cowboys in the wild card round, and barely lost to San Francisco in the divisional playoff. But Aaron Jones was a big part of all that and had a 120-yard day against the Vikings in Week 17 here.
Absolutely.
Aaron Jones wants to win this game, and I think the offensive line is going to be jacked up to try to do it, kind of lead the way for him. That's going to be just a fascinating matchup.
Love it. He's going to have the biggest purple sombrero he can find walking into Lambeau. I guarantee that.
Yeah, that's going to be funny. And speaking of Aaron Jones, we'll look at one more highlight from that Texans game. Here was his touchdown reception from Sam Darnold in the first quarter.
94 yards in the season opener, and he's benefiting from their emphasis on it.
Darnold guns, open man, Jones, touchdown!
If he does that on Sunday, he'll be heading to the stands
Oh, yeah.
for the Lambeau Leap. So good stuff, Aaron Jones. He's a very big part of this game. And it also was interesting to hear the Packer people talking about him. Jordan Love talking how much he loved playing with him and what a great competitor, great friend he is. And so I'm sure it's just going to be mixed emotions for Aaron Jones to go back there. But out-rushing the opposing team, really huge this week. And then other keys, of course, Brian Flores and that defense trying to rattle the opposing quarterback. They've been super successful so far this year, 16 sacks, got to C.J. Stroud 5 times, forced 2 interceptions, hit him 8 times. If they can do that against the Packers, I think the Vikings will have a great chance to win this game too. And you talk about Jordan Love and how the respect that he has for the Vikings defense. Let's hear from Jordan Love about the possibility of facing the Vikings. I'm not sure he's going to face the Vikings, but here are some comments from the Packers QB.
As far as my injury concern, like I said, I'm trying to push it, and I've been trying to get back as fast as I can, no matter who the opponent was. But definitely, I mean, you look at this week, and NFC North opponent, a 3-0 team, really good team. So it would definitely mean a lot to be able to get back and push myself to get back for this game.
Jordan, speaking of whoever the opponent is, if you want to come, I know everybody's got good pass rushers, but the team that's leading the league in sacks and you're dealing with your knee, what's the challenge in making sure that you're mobile enough in the pocket and getting out of the pocket against the pass rush like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think no matter what team it is you're talking about, I mean, that's always the goal, is to get the ball to your hands as fast as possible. Anytime you're holding the ball or just sitting in the pocket, those guys are really good on the other side, and they're going to find a way to get home. So it's always trying to get the ball out of my hands as quick as possible, and we'll do some good things protection-wise to be able to stop that. But at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, they're a good defense. They got really good rushers, and Flores does a really good job of sending a lot of pressures. It's an exotic defense, so you just got to be locked in to be able to pick some of that stuff up. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's football, and there's always a risk of getting sacked, getting hit. So like I said, trying to get the ball out of my hands as fast as possible.
The turnover battle is going to be huge in this game. The Packers lead the league with a +7 turnover ratio. The Vikings are +2, ranking 6th in the league. Packers lead the league in interceptions. It's going to be very critical for Sam Darnold to be careful with the football and not make mistakes, which he's been very good at so far this year, avoiding the big mistakes. He's got 8 touchdown passes, leads the NFL, second in passer rating because he's only thrown 2 picks this year. So that's going to be certainly a key element for the Vikings to protect Sam Darnold in the crowd noise in Green Bay and so forth. Before we check out a couple of Packer highlights, let's talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. It's time to take the field in an SUV that's designed to be unstoppable in every pursuit. That's the all-new 2024 GMC Acadia. From its reimagined interior to its bold, capable exterior, Acadia is suited up so you can make winning drives wherever they may lead, whether it's home or away, your team will enjoy the ride in comfort with 3 rows of spacious seatings for 7. Plus, Acadia comes standard with other winning features like heated front seats, remote start, and a 2.5-liter engine with a GM estimated 328 horsepower. Or take yours to the championship level with available amenities like a panoramic sunroof or an off-road tuned suspension. Don't sit on the sidelines any longer. Test drive your new 2024 GMC Acadia today. Available now at your select Minnesota GMC dealers. Some other keys to the game. The secondary for the Vikings has to cover a really excellent wide receiver group. For the Packers, if they throw the ball, they want to run it. We know that. Number 1 rushing team, as I said. But you've got Christian Watson. You got Jaden Reed's their leading receiver. Romeo Dobbs was huge in the playoffs last year. Excellent trio. Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, a couple of really good tight ends. We'll see if Love is back. I would expect, Sam, that they're going to try a lot of screens, a lot of quick passing, not have them hold the ball.
Absolutely.
And also, of course, trying to run the ball effectively. Yeah. On the other side of the coin, for the Vikings, they have to protect Sam Darnold, as we said, against a team that's very opportunistic, forcing a lot of turnovers and sacking the quarterback. They've got some excellent edge rushers. Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill have had their hands full all season. Every week they've had elite rushers. Last week it was Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. This week they get another great group of rushers. Preston Smith has a couple of sacks. Rashawn Gary, very capable. Lucas Van Ness, a former first-round pick. Those guys rotate. That's going to be a challenge. The inside guys got to handle Kenny Clark, has given Garrett Bradbury trouble in the past. And Ed Ingram will surely see a lot of Devontae Wyatt, who's actually their leading sacker at defensive tackle with 3 sacks. So a strong rushing attack for the Vikings and the screen game to Jones and Chandler, along with a few wide receiver screens to Jefferson, Addison if he's able to play, Jalen Naylor. I think that can slow down the pass rush. And as I said, Darnold's playing great. Got to get the ball to Jefferson. And the hope is that Addison's back from his sprained ankle. You can expect that Jefferson will see a lot of and maybe be shadowed the whole game by Jair Alexander, who is a Pro Bowl corner. And he's a guy that's been very productive over the years, has taken on Jefferson from time to time, but just has had some big games against the Packers. And I remember a couple of years ago, the opener, when the Vikings had that great 13-win season, and Alexander was really not covering Jefferson. He went off for 150 or more yards, and the Vikings got that big opening win over Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, kind of jump-started their season. I would expect that he'll be much more locked in on Jefferson this week, and we'll see how that turns out. Here is Jair Alexander. Last week against the Titans off Will Levis, a pick 6.
Rough start the first couple of weeks for Levis as he goes to the air. It's intercepted. Jair Alexander high stepping for 6.
Don't want to see that on Sunday for the Vikings or Sam Darnold. Don't throw that kind of late arriving out ball or Alexander's going to pick you off. So we got to be careful with that. Jordan Love, we talked earlier, had played in the opener against the Eagles. The Packers lost by 6 to Philadelphia in that opening game in Brazil. A very exciting game. Here was one of the highlights for Green Bay. Jordan Love, 70-yard touchdown pass to Jaden Reed.
But Watson in motion on 3rd and 10. Love steps up on the run. Wide open, Jaden Reed. Make the man miss. Reed, goodbye. Touchdown, Packers, 70 yards.
And that's what they're capable of. If he's got time to throw, Vikings want to make sure he doesn't have time to throw that ball, and then got to cover those receivers. Stephon Gilmore, Shaq Griffin, Byron Murphy. They've done a really good job this year. Murphy was beat a couple times in the game. Gilmore and Griffin not really against Houston last week, but I think there could be some challenges this week, but if Willis starts, he's only throwing 32 passes in the 2 games he started against Indianapolis and Tennessee, because they really focused on running the ball, protecting him. He's only been with the team for 3 or 4 weeks at this point, which is why I think they'd love to play Jordan Love if they can. And perhaps they will. If they do start him, Sam, I think what'll happen is, as I said, a lot of screens, a lot of quick passes, a lot of runs. He won't be mobile. He won't be trying to escape the pocket, which I think also helps the Vikings in the pass rush. They don't have to worry about the quarterback trying to run necessarily. If Willis is in there, he's a runner. He's a running quarterback. He had over 70 yards rushing last week.
Yes.
So it's a different game plan. Brian Flores talked about that this week. He's going to have 2 game plans for the Packers, depending on who's starting a quarterback.
You have to imagine, too, that even if Jordan Love does start, that they're going to be watching him like a hawk. And if he shows even any signs of being hurt still, I have to imagine they'll pull him quickly. Like you said, they want to protect their by far the most valuable player.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And I would expect that they will, if he takes a couple of hits, they would pull him out of there.
Yep.
If he starts. And I'm just not convinced at this point that they're going to start him yet. I think that why would you not want to wait? It's week 4. The Packers have a long season ahead. Do you want to take a chance on having him down for 6 weeks? If he hurts that MCL even worse this time, I think it's a very big risk if the guy is not 100%. But we'll see how that plays out. And I think a couple other keys to the game. The special teams, the Vikings have been very good on special teams this year. Certainly Will Reichert off to a fantastic start, 15 of 15 on his kicks, 5 of 5 field goals, including a 58-yarder. The Packers have a new kicker in Braden Narveson, who beat out Greg Joseph, the ex-Viking kicker. So he's a guy who already has 2 misses from 40 to 49 this year and hasn't even tried a 50-yarder when guys are making 50-yarders all over the league.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an edge for the Vikings. Their coverage units have been really good. Ryan Wright had his best game punting last week. So you would think that the special teams edge could go to the Vikings. Penalties are going to be a key. The Packers, one of the most penalized teams in the league so far this year, 26 penalties. Wow. Including 8 offensive holding calls and 4 on their left tackle, Rasheed Walker. Well, who's he going to be up against this week? Probably Jonathan Grenard, coming off a 3-sack performance. Now, I would expect they're going to help Walker with some chipping from the tight ends and so forth, but they've had trouble with penalties, and if that continues, I think that it'll help the Vikings' opportunity to win this game too. You just look at, Sam, and we can kind of get into our prediction right after we first want to hear from our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade. GMC. Well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR for 36 months on GMC Sierra light-duty models. See your local GMC dealer today. Monthly payment is $28.16 for every $1,000 you finance. Average example down payment 15%. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/24.
It was interesting this week, before we get into our predictions, to hear Matt LaFleur talking about Brian Flores' defense and how much he respected Brian Flores, but he made a fascinating observation. He said nobody else in the league is running a defense like the Vikings, with guys running up to the line of scrimmage, back fake blitzes, coming out of blitzes, moving personnel all over the field. You don't know where Andrew Van Ginkel's going to line up. And he just made that point. He said it's not only their scheme, but their players, and they've added some really good players. And he talked about specifically Grenard and Blake Cashman, who leads the Vikings in tackles, saying that those were two guys that they studied in free agency. The Packers did. I think it's really unusual for a team, and speaking as a former GM, when you make that as many free agent signings as the Vikings made, and how many guys they hit on, you got 6 starters on defense that are all first-year players with the team, and how productive they are and how well the defense is playing. You're talking about Grenard, you're talking about Cashman, Van Ginkel, Gilmore and Griffin at the corners, Jerry Tillery on the defensive front. And then you add another free agent signing, none other than Sam Darnold.
Of course.
You got to tip your hat to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the GM, and to his scouting staff. They've taken some grief over the 2022 draft when it didn't pan out well with guys like Lewis Cine and Andrew Booth. But these free agent signings this year, in my mind, that's made up for whatever happened in the draft. And wow, what a coup that they've made with those guys.
And even Dallas Turner too. I mean, he's been phenomenal when he's been able to play, and he's that defense is definitely looking like, I think, a much more well-rounded defense than a lot of people predicted going into the start of the season anyway.
For sure. A lot more depth, and Dallas Turner is back at practice this week with that knee. He was a full participant today. That's good news for the Vikings. Still got a bunch of guys on the injury report, but with a Packer week, I would expect that most of those guys are going to be playing.
No doubt.
So predictions, I'm going to say, Sam, that whether Jordan Love plays or not, and my first inclination was if Love plays, maybe the Vikings are due to get beat, but I just don't think he's going to be the Jordan Love we saw at the end of last year. I think he could be a little apprehensive, could be a little rusty from missing time. I think the Vikings are going to get after him. And if it's Malik Willis, he's got 5 career starts. He's never seen a defense like this. That defense is just playing so well. The key is going to be, as I said, Darnold has to protect the football. The running backs can't fumble the ball. The receivers have to protect the ball. If the Vikings not turn it over, which I think they can at least stay even in the turnover battle, I think they win this game. I think they're the hotter team. They've beaten tougher opposition in San Francisco and Houston compared to Indianapolis and Tennessee. So I'm going to take the Vikings 23-20.
Love that. Go for it, Jeff. I love that.
What do you got, Sam?
I think I completely agree with you. I think the biggest key is going to be the defense. And like you said, there's going to be 2 separate game plans for these 2 quarterbacks. I think if Willis is out there, they're just going to throw a ton of confusing looks at him. He's not going to be ready, or he will be ready, but he's not going to be able to adapt to it maybe on the fly like Jordan Love would be able to. Either way, though, I agree with you. I think the Vikings definitely have the advantage in some of these other categories. And like you, I do see it still being a close game. I mean, let's not underrate the Packers. They've been playing really well this season. They are at home, and it's still a division game. So all that being said, my score was going to be 27-24, Vikings taking the win.
Well, we will see, and we will break it down on Monday. Let's go around the league real quick here. Some other big games involving NFC North teams. Detroit's at home against unbeaten Seattle on Monday night. I think that the Lions will handle. I think the Seahawks, are a semi-fraud. They've beaten Denver, New England, and Miami without Tua. Chicago,
in overtime, I think.
What?
New England in overtime, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and the Bears are at home against the Rams, who just knocked off the 49ers. I think Matthew Stafford finds a way to get that done. Chicago, Caleb Williams is struggling mightily with turnovers, and he's been sacked 13 times. The other interesting games, Buffalo at Baltimore Sunday night. I like the Ravens over even Josh Allen, who's super hot. The Chiefs are at the Chargers. I'll take Mahomes over a gimpy Justin Herbert.
Any day.
Yeah. And the New York Jets, the Vikings' next opponent in London next weekend, they have Denver at home. I think that Jets defense and Aaron Rodgers will prevail in that game, and that they'll get after Bo Nix. So I do like certainly the Jets, and then we'll talk about the Jets and the Vikings next week. But meanwhile, get excited for Sunday. It's going to be a great game, and we look forward to breaking it all down on Monday. And this has been Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2024 GMC Acadia and Sierra on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. This is Jeff Diamond with Sam Bird. Everybody have a great weekend and enjoy the game on Sunday. We'll be back with you on Monday.